from the business perspective, where we will discuss topics like innovations in radio, the sustainability of the medium, and the further evolution of this industry. I have been a radio girl forever, and I am the most excited for this session, which is going to feature the most eminent personalities of the radio industry from all over the world. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to the moderator for the evening, our very own, the very dynamic Sharma ji, Mr. Gaurav Sharma, who is known by his unique greeting style, hey, hey, hey. He's the Chief Content Officer at Radio 1, Fever FM, and Radio Nasha India. And after an initial stint with advertising at Lintas, he became the ideal startup guy. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the moderator. Planet M, the number one initial stint with advertising at Lintas. He became the ideal startup guy. Without further ado, let me introduce you to.
Woohoo! I don't know if I'm on or not, but hey, 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 as Veda said, and what I want to sing is all we hear is Radio Gaga. That's exactly what all radio professionals want to keep hearing. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Yeah, in 1979, that was many years ago, a group called Buggles said that video killed the radio star. But you know, the best part is that radio did survive. In fact, you don't get to hear the song anywhere else but on the radio. That's how modest a medium we are. Queen sang Radio Gaga. Our very own Desi Himesh Reshamia said, "Man ka radio bajne de zara." A perfect description of the medium, if you ask me. The theater of the mind, the theater of the heart. But let's quickly fast forward to today. The pandemic. Oh, we've heard this word since the past 2 years. The pandemic has affected one and all, and radio too, if you ask me. It pushed all industries to evolve. Everyone including the audio industry, had to change, adapt, and grow into a dynamic world of consumer preferences, varied consumer preferences. Options opened up. Today, we will discuss how our industry has changed from a programming perspective and from a sales perspective, how different the impact for the artist and the producers is. This third installment of the webinar series, Fab Talks, we will cover topics like how international markets responded to the pandemic, innovation in radio programming, radio sustainability, and lots more. I'm hoping today's episode will resonate with you who are watching, with each one of you. We're going to look at how international markets function and to keep up with the industry developments. Radio worldwide. This is being streamed live worldwide on Facebook, on the FAB Market website, as Veda said. But is it being streamed on radio? I'm not so sure. Interesting. Okay, to discuss all of this, joining me, Sharma ji, is a very elite panel from around the world. We have Rehmat Hafiz, program controller and radio presenter, East FM Kenya. We've got Avanish Mohan, COO, content and operations and presenter, Radio Zindagi, USA. We've got Sabita Rajesh, head of sales, Fun Asia Network, UAE. And we have Renuka Arora Bhagat, founder and managing director, Masti Media Network, Singapore. Put your hands together for each one of them. Woohoo! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Aap sabka swagat hai. Where I'm still not seeing everyone. Where is Sabita is also there. Great. So just like Veda mentioned, I do this every time as Sharma ji. So I request everyone to do this. So I know you can hear me, you can see me, and
we're all on the same
page.
Cool.
Sabita, I didn't see you. So I don't know whether you can hear me. Can you hear me? Oh, you can. Okay, great. Okay, super.
It's more of Gajrari, I think, isn't it?
It's more that, like I said, can you see, can you hear? So this happens. So tell me, I think let's just start from the very beginning. Let's understand the lay of the land. And I would want each one of you to say a few words on what's the radio scenario in each of your countries. what are the formats that you look after, and of course, how many Indian radio stations there are. So, Sabita, you want to start? Sorry, Sabita, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
So yes, the UAE market is actually a very fast-growing market here in the UAE. In fact, it's one of the best markets in the MENA region. We have over 10 radio stations, Hindi radio stations, as well as other languages, including English, Arabic, etc. But yes, the pandemic did affect us, obviously, as with all media. Compared to 2018, we saw a dip of about 55% in terms of revenue for the radio market here. But having said that, I mean, especially with the recent changes, with COVID now, I think the restrictions are being lifted, and there's an upturn in the market. We saw that actually from the end of last year, Q4, and a little bit of a hiccup early this year because of the new variant, but now definitely things are on track, and the industry is growing slowly but surely, which is a very positive sign.
Renuka?
Well, hi everyone, talking about about Singapore as such and the radio industry. Well, I'm proud to say that Radio Masti has been the only Bollywood or the only Hindi radio station for more than a decade now, initially on the airwaves and later as the only digital station as we continue. So that transition, of course, we'll talk about during our chat later. But yeah, as a country, I would say that Singapore is not as huge compared to either of you. So I have to admit that we have a very small population of Southeast Asian expats and the local Indians as well over here. Well, roughly about a 1.4 million, so to say, in terms of the listeners base for us. But at the same time, I think radio, specifically Radio Masti, has been a brand from the day we started. So it sort of got into the market, got into people's homes, and is a companion, initially just for 3 hours and now for 24/7. Well, the last 2 years have been very challenging, not only for us, but for all radio stations across in Singapore. But well, we're proud to say that we've sustained, we have transitioned, we have evolved in several ways. And today we continue to definitely be there, very close to the community in more ways than we were initially. So happy to share more, but yeah, maybe we just go to the next speaker to introduce her.
Thank you so much, Renuka. We continue the tradition of ladies first. So Rehmat would like you to tell us a little bit about your radio station and really the radio scenario in Kenya.
I'm Rehmat Hafiz and I represent East FM Kenya. We are among 3 Bollywood stations in Kenya, but we remain to be the biggest. And for us, we are known globally as well. And we have the feel at home Kenya vibe with any listener who tunes in from anywhere around the world. Because if you have been living in Kenya and moved out of Kenya, you tune in and still feel like, after Ghar Pe Radio Sun Rahe Ho kind of a thing. So yeah, the pandemic has of course taken a toll on us, but also we did have, of course, a better listenership because, the pandemic, everybody's at home. So they want to listen to somebody who is more closer to them, who understands them. Ki aap radio on karo, you can hear somebody who is making you feel at home. So radio is actually home. So we are doing great with that, and we'll talk more about as we go ahead.
Of course, and this pandemic has also taught us the virtual Zoom. Nahi to hum baithe hote Kenya mein, all 5 of us, and we would have been at Masai Mara doing the session live.
Exactly. Next one, please do join us.
Absolutely. Avanish, first you tell us what time it is in the US, and if, and apologies for waking you up before your waking up time. And of course, tell us about life there, radio and yeah, the land.
It's almost 8 in the morning, so it's good. Yeah, so I'm up. Thank you so much for inviting here. I am part of Radio Zindagi, which is America's #1 South Asian radio network. And as Rehmat said that, during this pandemic period, everybody suffered, but we took it as a challenge and advantage to it. We turned it as an advantage to it. So as Rehmat again said, we reached into homes. earlier we were only in cars. Now we are into homes. We have been in the heart of people. Now we have in the home also. So that has been, changing a game changer.
But tell me, I mean, now we'll kind of open the house to everyone, and everyone's been speaking about the pandemic challenges. But tell me, radio as a medium, and of course we've been with the medium for a while. The only challenge was about home versus car, or are there other challenges also that are emerging that are challenging the medium as a whole?
So
sorry, okay, please go ahead.
Sorry. So what we've seen here in the MENA region, particularly, digital spends basically has taken a lot. I mean, today marketing managers are taking most of their budget to the digital platform. So yes, there's been a shift in terms of budgeting towards digital compared to traditional medium. But having said that, I mean, we, even at FunAsia, we take this as an opportunity to see how we can overcome this challenge, because radio flows really well with social media. So using Instagram handles, on-ground events, we expand and we, so we not only, like you said, bringing it to home, we not only keep it to on air, we also extend it to our social media platforms and include our brand personalities wherever possible, so that we overcome this this particular challenge, in terms of digital revenue taking over traditional media spend.
So of course, then we've got car versus home. We've got digital. Any other challenges that you've experienced with regards to radio as a medium in terms of consumption?
Gaurav, there's one more thing which I like to add is, when entire world was masking themselves, radio unmasked itself. We came in the limelight as a visual also. So which has definitely given edge to radio now. If you compare with, television and other platforms, radio is an edge now, and which is going forward, and it is going to be game changer for radio and media industry. Now we have become the audio entertainment industry. We are not just radio. That is a difference which is going a long way.
That's true. I mean, with us too, we've got 4 radio brands. We've got Fever, we've got Radio Nasha, we've got Radio One. We have Punjabi Fever, and really now we call ourselves a content company more than a radio company. It's about creating content all the time, whether it's digital, whether it's audio. But really, what is the revenue model for each of the 4 networks that you're with? Is it primarily advertising or advertising on radio, or has even digital advertising and revenues from digital also, have they started making an impact into your overall revenue kitty?
So yeah, I can probably speak up and say, for us, vanilla advertising has stopped. What the pandemic has taught us is that no more are people just interested in 30-second commercial spots. Now it's more like they need a 360-degree campaign. And when I say a 360-degree campaign, they want to see on air, they want to see digital, they want to see on ground. So they want to take full advantage of various things that various platforms that we can leverage with the on-air campaign. So that's where we've molded ourselves, and I think that's where we've grown and we've taken up different opportunities. We've showcased different types of marketing activities and how radio is so versatile, as opposed to just ad spots. So I think the pandemic has taught us that customization and creating out of the box ideas, that will slowly become a norm. People have understood the value of that.
But Rehmat Renuka, wasn't that always the case? I know in Singapore it was always about providing solutions. Has that kind of increased now because of the ask from a digital front?
Right. So just to sort of go back to what Sabita was mentioning in terms of the move of the traditional advertisers to the digital age, right? So that is something that we've experienced, of course, and being 100% digital platform that we're not on the FM, we're not on the airwaves at all. We're 100% live digital station here. And that's our niche. Actually, that worked in our favor, because if end of the day, Singapore was a country which was known for driving cars around, of course, maybe I would have had second thoughts about re-establishing this platform. But when it comes to Singapore, the public transport obviously speaks for itself. And that's why even before the move, which was 100% digital, we had 82% of our listeners listening through the app, which was the MediaCorp app, right? Of course, we were a part of MediaCorp at one point, right? So because of those changes that happened, but today, what is rightly being mentioned is that there has to be a mix of traditional as well as the digital products that we have to offer and cater to the client. And there is no one single solution. So we can never, it has to be customized. I mean, as much as we hate this word, it has to be customized. The challenge that I usually see is that when you have a social media, your social media pages running around, that means you have your Facebook, you have your Instagram, you have your works, right? The problem that comes in is that the clients do not know what questions to ask. So many times you have these very crazy, and I call them crazy because they're just social media pages who claim to have followers who may not even be relevant to the clients, right? But the clients do not know what questions to ask. They never ask the demographics. They never ask the details of the people. They never ask the gender, the location, nothing at all. Being digital, at least for us, I can say, is very, very useful, because I can give exactly the location from where most of my listeners are tuning in. Is it relevant to you? Are you going to get your ROI or not? So that is the kind of question I want my clients to ask me. But then when it comes to a visual medium, for example, a television, they don't even have absolute numbers. I mean, there is no way to figure out how many people are watching the television in your part of the world or mine. But then it's that traditional mindset with the advertisers, TV hai to dekh rahe honge log, And then, of course, it was radio, kaun sunta hai. Other thing, radio should be cheaper than television. Those are those age-old, old-school sort of points that keep coming back. And then we have to challenge them. Acha, digital hai, all right. Aap tickets kisse book karate ho? When you go and book your tickets, kisse? Wo app hota hai. Oh, acha. Acha, aap OTT jab dekhte ho, wo bhi app hota hai. So, agar radio app hai, so what is the problem? And then it's like, app means recorded. So these are some very, very boring and old school thoughts that we had to face initially, but now we laugh at them.
No, but Renuka, tell me, what's the, very interesting, you mentioned that, you are digital, and I know that you were one of the first people who pivoted your entire content strategy to an app. Yeah, a radio station that's available only in an app. And of course, then you went ahead and successfully captured that entire audience. So what is the strategy that you use? You just mentioned, all the problems that you faced, all the challenges that you faced, but what did you do to make the people cross over? It'll be interesting to know.
Right. So I think at that time, when we sort of crossed over, it wasn't by choice. I have to admit, it wasn't by choice, because having a radio station on an app, I mean, the good old Nokia phones had the FM emoji, the icon, if you remember. But the new phones don't even have an FM on them, right? It's all app. So this was the thought. And I have a technology background and a consulting background. So I was always thinking in terms of, how do you relate a complete organization to what the user wants. Now, end of the day, you have your phones. That's going to be the future, obviously. Now, with the expat radio shutting down, and we were only 3 hours, we had to think either we shut down like the Japanese, the Germans, and the others did, or else as a Bollywood station, which had already established a brand, which had radio national records to its credit, fighting against 24-hour stations. Just a 3-hour station was winning awards at a radio ceremony, a national awards ceremony. It was huge for us, and we didn't want it to die, right? And that's when, knowing that digital is the future, that's the trend. Yes, it was a huge step. I heard things like, fail ho jaoge, what dream world are you living in? You know, things like that. But then the strategy was to get your audience along and simultaneously get your clients along to believe in you. Right. And there was a lot of dedication, and it was my, I would say, everything that I had been saying at stake. I was the face of the radio. People knew me because I also tend to host shows, right? So they just knew it. And because of that, we started transitioning from the FM to the digital. And that took us about 15 to 20 days with lots of challenges. We, of course, started advertising on the old platforms saying that please move with us. We're going 24 hours. The second bit was to go and visit every client, offer them discounts to continue advertising with us on the new platform, since they were asking us, how do you make sure that you're going to reach? You don't have numbers, you don't, who's going to listen to that? We are in cars. You know, when you talk about PMEBs, you talk about bankers, they're mostly listening to you in the cars. So that was the other thing. The third was growing 8 times overnight. Where am I going to get the talent from? To run a 24-hour station? I mean, we just have one single jock talking day after day. 3 hours is easy to do, but is 24 hours really possible? Then having a studio, having a live feel to it, everything was being done in a span of a few weeks. So definitely it required multitasking, it required juggling around, it required a lot of thinking. But then in the end, it's like you just look at yourself and say, don't ask why me, you should say, try me, you know. So that was the kind of thing that I would say went ahead, and it turned out to be a success.
And today, do you miss a physical radio station versus an app? I mean, I know it's a tough question. I know a lot of people are listening. I know there are a lot of business people there who are saying, okay, you know, here's a girl, or, you know, here's a radio station that's kind of cracked something that we'd never thought of. Do you prefer the app or a physical radio station?
Oh, no. I'm perfectly fine with the app. In fact, the products that we offer on an app is much more, many more, I would say, dynamic products. Like, you know, you switch on the app, you see, today you will see a Gangubai Kathiawadi trailer playing on my app before you move on to the radio station. So that's the digital stuff that you're offering. There's so much more to an app. And anyway, I don't have a radio set at home. I mean, I don't even have Hindi TV channels for that matter, but that's where we are. It is the digital age.
I mean, in India, the challenges are also licensing. But even then, Sabita, for you, app or a radio station, or both?
I think both, because in this market particularly, again, it varies from market to market. Sure. But the UAE has, I mean, our roads are always busy. There's commute happening. I understand during the pandemic, obviously, there's a lot of work from home. But already we've noticed from the beginning of the year, people have been told to come back to the office. Schools have completely reopened. So they're with traffic and with cars on the road, you know, radio plays a very important part. You know, radio is very local. It's basically your friend while you're stuck in traffic. And yes, you're right. We have to adapt to the digital forum. So for us, especially in this market, radio and the app is the best combination. And we have that.
Yeah, sorry. Rehmat, what
well,
about
for
you?
me, I think digital adds a pinch of salt to the radio, because you have a personality you're connected to. You know, listen to radio every single day. You listen to them and you want to see how they are now, you know, social media connection, make videos with them, finally have the social media connection. Whereas radio anyway is something you want to listen to. Sometimes you might not be able to watch what's on digital because jo sunte ho, wahi sunte ho. You know, it's while you're doing your stuff, you're moving around, while you're driving, you can't really watch stuff. So I think it would be a yes and no of both. You have a digital side where you can showcase like clients what they would get 360, like you said, and we can work with that, which is the way forward, because radio alone is not the key. You have to have both. And that's what it is these days. You know, TikTok is in, Instagram is in, you have to go for Instagram Live. And that's how the listeners now connect. Whereas before, somebody tunes the radio and says, "Ha, ye gana baj raha hai, hum kal sunenge." Then you might hear the same song on a different show and say, "Ye gana vapas sun rahe," you know, kind of a thing. And you connect to a retro show where the listeners, we actually have a show called Bemisal Andaz on our platform as well. It's actually a classical show. And the listeners are fully radio oriented. They don't want to know anything about digital. So they will just want to tune in and say, "Hum ye show sunenge, hamare ye gaane hai," and that's how they enjoy it. Whereas we have a different era of our young people who'd say, "No, we want to also learn and know the presenters," and hence we hold on, our on-ground events and connect the two together.
Avanish, what about you? Both or one of the two, if you had an option?
It is both, because we have broadcast stations at New Jersey, New York, and California. Then we have app, but we have our presence in entire US is through, we are in Seattle, we are in Toronto, we are at a number of places, Houston, we are there through app. So we are already a blend of both. And as Rehmat also said that, radio is a medium where everybody, want to listen to it. And it is said that, to understood, you have to listen to it first. आप कहते हैं ना आवाज उठाओ किसी की, तो जब आप कोई चाहे इवन इफ इट इज मीडिया, आप जहाँ पे टेलीविजन देख रहे हो, राइट, बट जब आप टेलीविजन देख रहे हो लेकिन सुनना तो आपको पड़ेगा ना समझने के लिए. सो दैट इज द पावर ऑफ रेडियो. जब आप सुनोगे तब आप समझोगे, and that is the edge which again I'm saying the edge. I'm using the word because
have I lost everyone, or because I can only see a freeze frame. The only one I can see moving is me.
Well, you're the only one we don't see moving.
Because you are the mover and shaker right now, so you are moving.
Let's do his thing like that now.
Yeah, forget it.
Dikhai de rahe ho, sunai de rahe ho.
He's stuck. He's
stuck at this rate.
So I think Renuka, just you should go ahead with that. I think till he joins back.
Oh, I can start hosting a show if you want.
Yeah, that's what we can do it.
Chalo, let's go. We're all pros at
Let's
that
continue
now
with
at
that.
this rate.
But actually, you guys are very right when you say that a mix of both is important, because again, like Sabita said, it's the market. The market really makes a difference. With Singapore being such a technologically advanced market, and definitely with people on the move, so two things work together. The FM stations, for example, from Norway, the FM stations have totally been wiped off. So that's a country where technology has taken over 100%. There are no FM stations. At least in Singapore, I can say the 4 national languages are still on FM. For Hindi, as I said, it wasn't by choice, but when it happened, there was no regret. But at the same time, I think if it was a Malaysia, it was, other countries, I would think twice. But today, the good thing is that countries like Malaysia, like Indonesia, they are reaching out to us and asking us to be a part of their digital platforms. So, which is good, because if we took the first step in establishing the digital platform, it sounded huge at that time, but people have adapted to it. And I guess that's what radio has done over the years, adapted to technology. And even today, we are being challenged to do it. But in your part of the world, is there a new, I'm taking over Gaurav's role for a bit. Is there a new a business or a diversified thing or something that you guys took over during COVID specifically? Did you start something new? Come
again.
No, I know. The minute I heard that, I came back. I think the digital medium is so intelligent that the minute it heard, Renuka, had heard you saying that you were taking over, everything fell into place, and I'm kind of back. No, but it's interesting. We were talking about it, and I think I missed out when Avanish was talking, so I don't know what he said, but as long as everyone else got to hear it.
I simply suggested Renuka to take over.
I
was about to start hosting the shows.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting thing. Radio is all about multitasking. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Rehmat, you are a presenter. Renuka, you are a presenter. Avanish, you are also a presenter. Sabita, tell me, are you a presenter too? Because you look like one hardcore business sales.
I think she's the boss.
Sales rules. Yeah, I would love to give her hosting and say, "Tum hi sab kuch karo."
So Sabita, tell me, do you also host the show?
No, I don't host the show. But I do contribute a lot in terms of creative ideas and concepts. So from a programming content perspective, we brainstorm and we come up with, great station campaigns together. So I do love the creative aspect of it, and it helps when you sell, because when you sit in front of a client, giving ideas or discussing ideas and coming back and discussing that with the team and actually giving a great solution, I think that's something that I get a lot of, it gives me a lot of drive.
That's a
Sabita
lethal and a scary combination to have a business person who's also creative. And likewise the other way around, a creative person who's also business oriented. Kabhi kabhi kya hota hai ki wo business to theek hai, you work from the heart, but this is even more lethal, and I've experienced it all my life. So my God, sir, everyone, guys, please beware of Sabita. Yeah, she is a business person who has a very creative acumen. So this is fantastic. But going back to, we were talking about digital. How did the presenters adapt to this? And I know that Rohini asked that question before I went off. Was that a challenge for your presenters? Because everyone, I mean, a lot of us traditionally came from pure radio mediums, came from a time when there was no social media. And suddenly now social media erupted. Earlier on there used to be a phrase that, do you have a face for radio? And it was a joke. But I think today it's not a joke anymore. Yeah, you need to have a face for radio. So how did your presenters and therefore, I mean, you also adapt to the digital requirement?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think in my team, I have a number of people with different age groups. And we have a lady called Parveen ji, who's now has been us zamane ki radio mein, where there was no social media ke zamana totally. And I went up to her one day and told her, Parveen ji, aapko ab photo post karni padegi aur aapko video banane padega, and you have to be part of social media. And she goes to me, hi Allah, Rehmat, ab main kya karungi, kind of a thing. And I was like, lekin karna padega aapko. And she goes, like, Rehmat, tum kar lo mere liye, main nahi kar paungi. But right now, I went to her personally and did a photo shoot for her, headphones ke saath. And now she has a page on Facebook with over 6,000 followers.
Oh.
So now she's with the trend. So I guess it grows as you go ahead, and it comes across when everybody wants to be the face of radio. In terms of pehle was mere awaaz, meri pehchan rahegi. Ab to you can even meet and say, acha, main iski awaaz ke piche mein hu. People do get shocked. Ye iski awaaz hai aur dikhta aisa, kind of a thing. And then it just
I did that when I saw Gaurav's profile today.
Oh.
So what's happened as well is that the fact that, see, social media influencers today, okay, let's be honest. Now there's this whole category of, where brands invest in social media influencers. So with presenters, what's happened is they've taken on this role model that, okay, I can be behind the microphone on air, but I can also influence people through social media. So I think they've really, initially, obviously, depending on the personality type, there's always some people who are hesitant to be, in social media, doing videos, etc. But I think everybody has realized the value, because when you're an on-air personality, you already have a loyal audience listening to you. And when you take that onto a digital forum, there's an automatic following that happens. And it helps them. It helps build their own brand as well in the market. So I think, to be honest, I think a lot of them just, took it on and they're growing and they're becoming better because of it.
I'll add to Sabita, as she said, we have a breed of radio influencers with face. We have been, social media influencers. Now we have radio influencers, all of us.
Right.
What happened when this pandemic thing was up, it was coming and we read the news and everything. So what we planned, we gave we have, set up at India also and US also. So in India, we gave, we created individual studios at their home, so that if you are not allowed to come to the, radio station, then at least you can do it from home. And that the internet, the laptop, Zoom, everything added to it and helped us streaming it. And streaming, as we know, it started and way back in 1881, it was Theatergram or something. It started at that time. But at that time, it was buffering and everything. बहुत ज़्यादा दिक्कत होता था तब. लेकिन उसके बाद फिर आया आपका jukebox. आप उसमें पैसा डालो और फिर आप म्यूजिक सुन सकते हो. Now we have jukebox in everybody's hand. It's a telephone. You just be a member of it and you can listen to it. And that is the advantage which radio has to take and is taking now. And other thing, as a salesperson, Sabita can throw light much better on this, but now we have a data also, as I think Renuka also pointed out. Now we have data also for listeners. Earlier, the only connect was they can hear us. We cannot get connected directly. Otherwise, a caller आ गया था आपने कर लिया. But आप अपने listener को नहीं जानते थे. Now you know your listener. You can get a feedback directly. You can involve him in different ways, and you can pitch to your clients कि भाई ये लोग हैं मेरे पास. So that is something which happened good in pandemic.
Ashna has put up a question, and I want to kind of ask another question and then lead to that. Amongst your listeners, do you find that the younger generation, the Gen Z audience, have they moved on from radio? Because like you said, that there are so many other distractions, or there are so many other avenues for entertainment. In terms of your listener profiling, do you see it's slightly older, or do you still capture the young market?
No. In fact, younger generation has again come back to radio.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Reason being, you go to a gym, right? You put on up, even if exercise, you do yoga, whatever, you can't see the visuals. You can hear it. So everything, again, I said, you have to listen to understand it. You have to feel also, you have to listen to it. So that is when the younger generation has come back to radio. बीच में एक वक्त था जब वो हट रहे थे हमसे, लेकिन now they have come back. And data is for that.
Renuka, for you, because I mean you're on an app, and therefore again you have your direct competition is not, I mean, it's probably not even a radio station. It's the other apps that are providing music, that are providing entertainment. Is that the same for you? Do you find that as a challenge to the younger guys?
Sure. So just before I answer this question, I just want to touch a little bit on the previous one, which was talking about the visual stuff, right? So during the pandemic is when we actually established a separate pillar as a part of our organization, which is called a Masti AVI, which is audio-visual interactive. Now, the only thing is that unlike a Facebook Live or something, it's not a one-way thing. Unlike a television, it's not a one-way communication. This is a three-way communication. So what we do is we have a guest, just like, you and I are talking right now, of course, two of us on the screen, but at the same time, you have the comments from the audience who are actually posting, and we kind of display that. So I am presenting, I'm talking to the audience, I'm talking to the guest, and that three-way is such a huge, deep connect that's become, a demand from our listeners. Of course, I was talking to a veteran of the radio industry who's been there for 30 years, and he hates this concept of being able to see your presenter. Now, that's another concept which has been happening. He says, "Nay, unless you are glamorous, you should not be on visual." And I said, that's exactly the point I don't want, because I can be glamorous on television, on the big screen. But the point is, do I want my radio presenter to be glamorous? No. I want a radio presenter to connect to the community. I want that radio presenter to be someone like you and I, a person you can talk to. And this pillar became a total success with our migrants community. And that is what forced us to bring it on. These guys, as you may have probably read, Singapore had many, many cases. The Delta variant was actually the worst with the migrants in the dormitories and all. And that's when we not only launched a Bangla segment within Radio Masti, which is only to talk to them. So we had Bangla jocks catering to them, plus hosting the shows, which was on Facebook, which is the most popular one with the Bangla community here. And the connect was instant. They cried with us, they laughed with us, they shared their creative aspects with us. We were a part of their family away from their home. What other medium can do it? I mean, there's no one else absolutely who could have done it. And this was something which was missing in Singapore. And I'm glad and proud that we could have done it at that time, coming to the rescue of people who were mentally going through so much. And I'm very passionate about that one.
That's fantastic. But did you find when you break your audience, like I said, coming to the other question, do you find that the younger segment, because I think that's a challenge for everyone. And again, I'm sure Sabita will also faces that, because most products and most brands are targeting the youth, and does that question come up when you're in the revenue and the advertising. So yeah, Renuka first.
So just to quickly answer that, yes. If we look at the youth, well, the youth today are a fingertip using and getting responses, kind of a 2-second youth. They don't have the patience for a jock telling them a story of a Gulzar or telling them, stories of, yes, no, they don't. They want music, and they want their kind of music at their fingertips. Yes. So yeah, I'm surprised when Avanish says that the youth are coming back. Well, I feel that they are going to Spotify's and they're going to other stuff, which is available according to their choice. But again, having said that, while youth remain our target audience, definitely very important, but what about the people who control the purchasing power? I would focus on them, because end of the day, we have a commercial station to run. And I'd rather have people with purchasing power and spending power, tuned in. The youth, definitely important. Some shows catered just to them.
नहीं वो अवनीश तो इसलिए बोल रहा था, look at him, he is apart from running the station, he spends 5.5 hours at the gym, तो तब वो रेडियो चला के workout करता है.
ओनर कैसे 5 घंटे जिम में रह सकता है? पे करना है, लोगों को पैसे देने हैं. छोड़ो, मैं रोने लग जाऊंगी. Don't get me started.
Sabita, tell me about your challenges.
That's a very good point, though, regarding Gen Z, basically.
Yeah.
And that's your 15 to 24, I'd say, that it falls in that age group.
Yeah.
Studies have proven that they do spend more time on streaming music. Even here in the UAE, that particular segment is more comfortable with, listening to Spotify and playing their own playlist. But having said that, what we are doing is we are branching out. We are going into podcasts, so we are looking at ways of grabbing that audience in. But like Renuka rightly mentioned, we are looking at the Gen X and Gen Y, because that's where the purchasing power is. And as a commercial radio station,
I think I'm gone.
Oh.
Am I gone once again?
Yeah,
because everyone else is gone.
You're very much there.
I am going, I think.
No, we can hear your voice.
We can hear you.
On the radio.
We can see you also.
He's a true radio guy. He only talks.
Yeah. Audio is super clear.
He's good.
But otherwise, मुझे लगता है Fab Market.
Let me just check on Gaurav.
I think he's back.
मुझे लगता है that these guys will have to pay me, because I'm ending up hosting this more than
I'm right here.
Wow.
जब पे होने की बात आई, is come back.
I'm telling you,
Every time
this is
Renuka
exactly
says
how
that
this
he
works.
is back.
Look, now between the two of me, I mean between Renuka and me, of course, who's prettier, who's more gorgeous, who's better speaking? It is Renuka all the way. Yaar, matlab, so that's the
I'm
problem.
your fan.
So Veda and everyone else who is watching from Fab Market, I think the next session, Renuka needs to be the host. Let me be the one coming in. There's less pressure. I can kind of then say whatever and do whatever.
You can be your co-host. It's okay. Co-host
yeah. Let's say we some co-host here. Like I said, Sabita will give us all the creative ideas. Yeah, and
and the seriousness.
Yeah, and the seriousness and the business perspective. Avanish is in the gym. Renuka and I and you, Rehmat, all three of us will kind of co-host the show. Gulzar ki baatein nahi karenge. Yeah, so that's the. But Sabita, you started talking about podcasts, and that's something I wanted to get into. To me, and I may be slightly old school, but to me, podcast is basically radio without music, right? I mean, it's talk radio. Talk radio becomes podcast. Do you see? But however, podcasting has come up in a big way. Everyone's getting into podcast. Guys, someone needs to mute themselves. I think someone in the admin or whatever. Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of ask that, do you see that as a threat to radio?
No, that's like, I was discussing, I was just discussing this point about the basically, and yes, there's a shift for Gen Z in terms of they're more comfortable with streaming music. They're more comfortable with the Spotify, to be honest. But radio and being a commercial radio station, we're looking at purchasing power. So for us, although we'd like to target them, and how we're doing that is we're going to, we're looking at branching out by creating podcasts of our shows, so we are already thinking of we can, branch out with our shows, and that can reach out to an audience who's just more into a digital world, basically. But as a commercial radio station, we are more focused definitely on a more mature audience, because that's where the purchasing power is. When you talk of your heads of companies, etc., that falls in the generation group or group set, and that's what we're looking at and targeting, with our campaigns.
For everyone else, podcast is podcast also seen as as competition to radio, or is radio absorbing that, and you're having a lot more talk radio? Is because that's what people want?
I think for us, particularly like in Nairobi, we only have I feel that when you have a podcast, the connection with the presenter is not there. You see that best friend mode that you have on air. Okay, they'll ask you a question or talk about something relevant to them, and they can respond to you either with the song that you have loved or the song they love, and they talk about something you're going to connect with. Let's say this morning a radio presenter spoke about talking about how he craved for double choc ice cream, and randomly had a craving for it, and his mom had to go buy it for him, though he's a presenter on our breakfast show. And we got a number of messages saying that, oh, also I had a craving, but I got dumped, and I didn't get it, and this and that. So it kind of brings a connection. And when you have a podcast, aap sun ke shayad so jaoge, kind of a thing. You might listen to it and then you knock off, or you might just say, okay, fine, that was great to listen to, but there's no feedback to it. Whereas when you're a radio presenter, you talk to the listeners as a friend. Right. Like when the pandemic is happening as well, you connect with them. Literally, how's your day? Are you okay? You're there supporting them. And that's what I feel, that's how our essence of radio actually supports them. I personally, the youngest member in my team and the youngest program controller as well. So for me, it's a bit difficult because I have to understand what the youth wants and also what the actual mature, like you said, the commercial perspective of things have to go across. So it's a give and take. And for the youth, we really have to plead and convince them, beta radio sun lo 2 minute ke liye tumhare liye kuch acha ho jayega, kind of a thing. And otherwise I say I'm going to my YouTube, or I'm going to my apps and stuff, but there would be something that could drive them towards it. I personally, I used to listen to radio since I was, I think, 18. Now I'm 27, and my radio has been the passion towards it. And it's a way of growing to it. I was a creative writer, producer, then became a presenter, and now a program controller. So definitely for me, radio is everything. So when my friend tells me, "Tu pura din radio pe gana sun ke thak nahi jati?" I say, "Tum gana pacha asad, you enjoy the songs." They're like, "Yeah, we do, but don't you get tired?" And I'm like, "Not really. It's actually fun." But they have a different side, English songs they want to listen to, and I'm totally Bollywood, filmy.
But really,
so
I just want everyone who's watching, I just want to tell them, no, it's, the show is not targeted towards Gen Zs or the un-Gen Zs. I think it reaches out to everyone who's on Facebook, everyone who's watching the show live, irrespective of age, irrespective of sex, irrespective of the location that you're in. I think it's all about loving radio, and we're all concerned. We all love our medium. And that's why I think the various questions that are popping up, it's really about being prepared for the future. But of course, keep listening to radio all the time. Okay, we have another 10 minutes left, and I'm going to get into a couple of audience questions now. There's one interesting one. Aman has asked, what is the biggest difference between the content consumed by the South Asian diaspora and the Indians there? So is there, of course, and you have a little bit of experience in India, do you think that they consume the content you give them slightly differently? If I'm not mistaken, if that's what he's trying to say. How do they consume the content that you give them?
Are you asking me?
Anyone in the house.
Yeah, sorry, Renuka, go ahead.
No, not me. Well, the guy has to get some space. Yeah, the ladies have taken over.
Avanish.
Yeah. So yes, the question is very relevant, and you have to whenever you serve something to somebody, you have to customize it to their need. We definitely serve South Asian content to them. From India, if you're serving Indian content to them, definitely we have to customize to the local angle also, and that is the reason we have studios. Otherwise, we would have been streaming from India all the shows like other station is doing in US. but we create content there which suits to them and blend it with the Indian content. So they glued to it. They are, with India anyways. So that is the content. And coming back to this generation, the younger generation, as everybody has, pushed me back on that event.
Hey, not at all.
So,
yeah, we are going to get your teenagers to our station. We just get an idea there.
sure, why
Guys,
not?
just again, everyone, what I love about this session, I'm sorry, but I'm just so getting a little emotional that, we have some of the top global radio stations here, global heads of these radio stations. So, suddenly your options open up, yeah? I mean, which is, it's a global world, digital world. Check out their websites, check out their Insta handles, and yeah, you'll probably get a lot more content coming your way, which is competition for everyone.
Gaurav रुलाएगा क्या इतनी तारीफ
नहीं, Avanish, बोलो, continue.
इन्होंने किसी ने खिलाया इनको, इतनी अच्छी बातें बोल रहे हैं ये। पैसे पहुंच गए क्या?
यार घर जाने का टाइम आ गया इसलिए।
तो अच्छा रैप अप का टाइम है। ऑफ एयर चलो, ऑफ एयर माइक बंद करो, कोई माइक बंद करो, कोई लाइट बंद करो।
हम तो 24/7 हैं, आप कहां जा रहे हो?
24/7.
So I just wanted to add.
Coming back to what we were discussing on the younger generation. So, we adapted to it. And if you can go through our app, we have various streams for them. We have podcasts on that. We have, different genres of songs streaming there. So if you don't want to listen to the radio, you can still listen to the songs which you want. We have Punjabi, we have unplugged, we have retro section, we have all sections, we have ghazal section. So if somebody is maybe they don't want to listen to the radio or what jocks are saying, so they can still listen to the radio which is being played on, music which is being played on Radio Zindagi.
Oh.
Nice.
Sabita, I know you've been wanting to add a couple of points to that for a while. So
Basically, had a very good point regarding the South. See, here in the UAE, we have a huge South Asian expat population. So definitely radio here is entertainment medium. See, when you can't compare even radio with podcasts. Podcasts are more informative, whereas radio is a very personal, local brand, and it reaches out on a local manner. So for us, when we on Big 106.2, when we do a content, we talk to the people living here. And it can be second generation people that have made Dubai or UAE their homes. So obviously the content is geared towards that. We make it more local. We do bring in a lot of Bollywood action, especially when it comes to movies, and anything related to sports and cricket. We do add that in. But definitely there has to be a local flair to it, because like rightly said, we can't just take programs based in India and play it out here. There won't be a connect, because there's a lot of local aspects that get covered on radio by the presenters, which is very important. And it is what connects listeners to us.
yeah, well, my final question, which is of course the crystal ball gazing, radio a year from now and radio 5 years from now. Where do you see this medium going? I mean, I know that every 5 years, every 10 years, someone raises a question mark. Like I said, when music television came up, people raised a question mark. Then when those mobile radio sets came up, there was that question mark that came up. Satellite radio, there was a question mark then. Podcast, there's a question mark. Digital, there's a question mark. And I know that, we've always bounced back. But really, a year from now and 5 years from now, anyone wants to just...
I just have one simple line to it. Radio was the medium, radio is the medium, and radio will be the medium.
वाह हुजूर क्या बात है, ये भी ना बात।
कल आज और कल हो गया ये तो मतलब
It's entertainment. It's radio.
हम निशब्द हो गए, अब हम क्या कहें गौरव?
रेणुका जी, अब आपको कुछ कहना पड़ेगा, मतलब देखिए।
मैं अब इन्होंने इतनी सॉलिड बात बोल दी है, मैं क्या बोलूंगी, मैं तो मतलब क्या ही बोलूंगी. But हाँ, I think what's important, just to get a little bit on that, is that radio has adopted to technology, no matter what, right from the time that it started, evolved as the first means of communication, right after newspapers. Of course, newspapers चले गए हैं आज के दिन में, सब कुछ digital हो गया आज के दिन में, कागज चले गए, लेकिन radio है, and radio is only evolving in terms of audio, new stuff which is coming in from the traditional dabba to the app. And then, of course, there's podcasts. We're talking about audiovisual. We're talking about so many things. So as long as radio industry leaders don't give up, as long as we continue to make sure that we are creative, we decide to sustain, we keep the connect, because there is no other avenue which has a two-way communication. Radio nahi hoga to kuch nahi hoga, because end of the day, people call, people can ask you breaking news, everything can be on the radio. I mean, television to jab tak wo saj ke apna banayega, tab tak radio to karke nikal chukta hai. You know, that's what we are. We don't believe in window dressing. We believe in actual execution, and that is why we are here. And I think the connect we have built, especially overseas, with the Indian community, I am hugely responsible for making sure people feel a part of Southeast Asia, away from home. Singapore is a transit economy. They go to Australia, they go wherever, they keep connecting. It's huge. We have to keep relevant, and we have to keep the connect. There's nobody else who can.
It is still, the most trusted and cherished medium, and it always be. And now you don't have to tune in, to listen to a radio. You just say, Alexa, play Radio Zindagi SF, launch Radio SF, and you hear it. That's it.
Yeah. You need to keep Alexa happy. Rehmat, what about you? What are your last few?
Radio is our way forward. It's going to be there forever. I personally, East FM has been here for 24 years. We had people handling it for 20 years. I've been here for 6 years. So koi na koi aayega, and it's going to continue for sure. No matter what happens, radio is the best friend to anybody, whether it's the child growing up, or it's the person enjoying a classic song, or it's just that we are there for everybody, and we are the best friend in your home. Abhi office mein bhi aap chalte hain, basically.
Sabita, with all your experience, what's your take on radio 5 years from now? If we were to have this session 5 years from now, do you think that we'll be again saying the same thing, or would things have changed? And if so, what would have been that change?
Definitely. I mean, look, radio will always exist, but it will probably be more on a digital platform. I mean, that's something that we can possibly look at. But definitely as a medium, while we may not, the medium cannot die. While we may have more listeners listening into the app or on a digital forum, radio is still radio. It's very important, that connect and that local feel and that entertainment that radio provides. I don't think anything can replace it anytime soon.
So yeah, I think what everyone's saying, digital, I think is the need of the hour. I think everyone needs to go digital. Radio needs to be seen. However, I think the engagement, the interaction, the involvement, the connect, I think that's what radio, I think radio is the only medium that can really provide that, which is instantaneous. I want to add a word which is being relevant, and I think only the relevant will survive. I think, again, everyone's spoken about how we need to be relevant. And, as long as radio is relevant, and I think we always were, I think it will be a force or a medium to reckon with. So, जाते सब लोग ये कर दो ताकि एक स्क्रीनशॉट ले लें, और मैं वेदा को बोलूंगा कि we need to have a
सेशन खत्म हो गया.
हाँ.
अच्छा, तो एक और ऐड कर दो, इतनी खुशी.
Yeah. No, I can sing. All we need is Radio Gaga. So, but yeah, I'm just requesting the Fab Market guys that, hey, we need to have a session too, because there's so much more to discuss, and I think it's an absolutely fabulous panel with the kind of experience. There's a lot more that needs to be discussed, that should be discussed. So we want a part 2. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
On that note, I would like all the speakers and moderator to just pose for a picture. Ananya, please click.
अरे पोस्ट तो किया है हम लोगों ने सब. आप लोगों ने
ऐसे पोस्ट करें या फिर अच्छा पोस्ट करें.
ये तो अच्छा है. Best है ये देखो.
The cat eyes.
Sabita is smiling. Yay!
Thank God I didn't get them to sing. But apart from that,
did you guys get it, Ananya? Did you get the screenshot?
Even if they didn't, if you recorded, screenshot ले लो, digital है, और फिर उसको clean up कर लो. देखो, radio में सब नहीं कर सकते. It's live. What we said right now is live. But digital में तो सब चीज, you can change my background also. बच्चन साहब का चेहरा भी आ सकता है, जो कट गया था. So yeah.
Fine.
But, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
It is
All
a
right.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure
Nice
meeting
meeting
everybody.
you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank
Okay,
you so
then.
much. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, Veda.
Bye. Thank you for the
Bye, guys.
Very, very